Hey YouTubers, I want to do a little bit of an update video on the Blazer. I know I haven't made any videos in a long time, and for that I apologize. Uh, you ever do something thinking, hey, I'm going to test this and see what it does, and the results make you go, yeah, you're an idiot. What'd you do that for? So if you see the Blazer here in all of its glory, you might also notice a fairly largeable pool of transmission fluid underneath the passenger door there. Well, the other day, because I hadn't started this thing in weeks, I thought I'll just back it out, start it up, back it out in the driveway, let it come up to temperature, get all the moisture out of the exhaust, charge the battery, make sure everything's still happy. So I let it set out there in the driveway and run, I don't know, at least 10-15 minutes or so. Went out there to check on it. It was right at about 188 degrees on the little Holly dash. So I was kind of revving the motor to, impress the neighbors. And then I was playing around with it. Well, I was going to put it in gear and try to hold the brake and just see what kind of boost I could make. Well, for some reason, this thing, when you put it in drive, it doesn't always start out in first gear. I've had issues with the governor. It's either the governor assembly or the modulator spool valve doesn't reset in the case. I don't know for sure which is which. I don't know which is causing it. But sometimes when you put it in drive, it'll start out in second gear. So in this particular circumstance, I'm just out in the driveway playing with it. Throw her down in drive, and I'm just like, oh, I wonder if it'll build any boost just here in the driveway. So I held the brake and I started bringing it up. I started bringing it up pretty aggressively on the throttle, and it, easily held to 4,000 plus RPM, which immediately told me it was in second gear. Because in first gear, you can't foot brake it near that high. Like if in first gear, even with the tires hot, you're lucky to hold 3,500 RPM and maybe around 4.5 pounds of boost. But I was just like, well, I said, I'm going to see what kind of boost it'll make. So I had let it down, and then I went bright, like maybe this was my error, maybe this was my mistake. So once I realized it was set in second gear, I decided to go ahead and try it again. So I literally held the brake and brought the boost up, and it was about almost 4,200 RPM, and I was trying to focus as best I could on the little boost part of the gauge, the Holly dash, and it was almost over 5 pounds of boost. And all of a sudden, the transmission for a microsecond, kind of felt like it kind of slipped and then grabbed again. It was like the vehicle did not move. The back tires never spun at all, but it just had kind of a little hiccup where the transmission kind of felt like it kind of slipped and then grabbed. So I just let off the gas and let it come back down to idle. And I was like, oh, wow. All right, I'm not doing that anymore. So I kind of cleared it out a few times. I just left it in drive, and I pulled it into the garage. And as I went to pull it in, I could see, because the hood was up on it this whole time. I could see like a puff of smoke, or there was something going on right over here in the passenger side of the engine bay. So I had just assumed, oh crap, I must have blown a head gasket or something. So I jumped out and I run up here while it's running. I don't see anything that looks like water, but I can see a transmission fluid. So I kind of was looking at what was wet and what wasn't. I could tell that the dipstick tube on the transmission had been pushed up. So I'm like, okay, that's transmission fluid. I must have got it too hot or something. So I run around and shut the engine off. And when I went to walk behind the Blazer, there was a freaking trail of transmission fluid from where I was parked out in the driveway, at least 12 to 14 inches wide all the way into where I parked in the garage. And then, of course, I guess the best we can tell by looking underneath there is that it had sprayed so much fluid out of the vent tube on the backbone, or on the back top of the transmission case, and that dipstick tube, that it saturated that whole, I guess, area of the under the body, the frame, anything under there, and that this pool of transmission fluid that's just accumulated underneath there is purely just dripped off from the transmission, because we can't see any leakage or anything from the torque converter area, the front seal, the front pump. None of that is wet. It's dry. So we're like, okay, we're looking for cracks. Maybe I broke something. Maybe I thought I broke the case or something. We couldn't find any cracks in the case. So then we're like rustling through, well, okay, if you're in second gear and you're really giving it the beans and putting some power to it, what's the most logical thing to break? So now we're thinking that either I blew a lip seal on the direct drum clutch, or possibly, I don't know, we're thinking maybe I could have had an issue with my snap ring that holds everything together on that drum. I don't know yet. Like, we have plans to pull it out and go through it, because it no longer has low or reverse. It no longer has first gear or reverse. And what's weird is the transmission fluid is just red and clean, like it came you poured it right out of the bottle, but it smells burnt, like super burnt. Like you couldn't have a more burnt smell in that transmission fluid. So whatever went wrong, it literally smoked the clutches that would do first and reverse, either immediately doing that stupid thing in the driveway, or maybe it has been damaged for a while and I just pushed it over I pushed it over the hill. I don't know yet. So I had some plans and different work that I was getting ready to do to the Blazer, and then I break something. So that's always a frustrating situation to deal with, where you save up a bunch of new parts and you want to try to make some real changes to your vehicle to make it faster, make it look better, or whatever, and then you turn around and actually break something. But like they say, if it's going to break in your driveway, it's better that it broke in your driveway than at the track or out on the street. So I keep trying to think that that's a logical statement, and that it turned out the best it could, That's my update. I know it's a sucky update, but that's my update on the Blazer project, which, I was looking at making some upgrades to the turbo. Of course, I've still got all my front and rear suspension parts to finish putting on. I was trying to, drop the vehicle weight about 100 pounds. I had decided to rebuild and make a lighter version of my transmission cross member. I had a lot of cool ideas, but now I've got to fix the transmission first, which, I've always not wanted to deal with a trans brake. But now, after talking to Dusty Bradford and a couple other guys in the racing community, it's not going to be as fast as I want it to be unless I go ahead and step up to doing a trans brake and a little bit better quality torque converter. So at this point, I am scrambling around trying to allocate funds to be able to go back through the transmission, fix the clutches that I know are burnt, find out what part failed, replace that, install a trans brake, which is way more expensive than they should be, and get a better torque converter. So I don't know. I'm still juggling that right now. I'm trying to justify that in my mind as far as money wise. But I just keep hearing those voices that say, you're not going to be as fast as you want to be unless you set the car up to do it. So that's where I'm at on the transmission repair idea. I want to fix, repair, or upgrade anything we come across inside the transmission to make sure it handles, because in the future I'm looking at putting 800 to the tire. I'm not going to be satisfied with 500 or 600 horsepower to the tire. I'm going to want to put more down in the future, and I don't want to have to worry about that transmission being up to task. So anyway, that's where we're headed. I'm going to try to upgrade the transmission to make it even stronger, find out how I hurt it with my stupid second gear foot brake boost idea, and get it back on the road. Hopefully, well, it will be on the road by spring, but I just don't know if I'm going to have all my other upgrades done too. It depends on how motivated I am and how much money I keep rolling in. So anyway, it's almost Christmas, guys, and I hadn't made any videos in a really long time. So I was just sitting out here getting ready to do some more port work on a set of heads, and I thought, man, why don't I just do a video real quick? Anyway, as always, guys, I appreciate you watching. I hope you guys stay subscribed, because I know I've been gone a long time. If you have anybody you could share my videos with, that'd be great, because the more money I could make through YouTube, the more I can put into the Blazer and get it, back on the road and get it out and see how fast I can make it. So thanks again for watching, man. Merry Christmas.